let's talk about going back to work if you find yourself going through a divorce and you're in midlife, you've been staying home with the kids for, a decade or two, and all of a sudden you find yourself having to look for a job or finding out a career or starting a business or something. This is going to be really distracting, but I'm going to share this and then you're not going to be able to unsee it. But there's a shadow right here of this hair. Just letting you know, it's a shadow. There's nothing there. Anyway, going back to work. It could be really tough, right? I was lucky because I had already started writing articles, being interviewed, all of this at age 50. So by the time I was 53, even though I hadn't taken a paycheck, and part of that was because we didn't need it. We had relied on one income, so everything was going back into my career. And when I say everything, I'm not talking about a lot. So it wasn't like it was affecting our financial situation at that point. But, divorcing, figure, okay, now it's time. I need to start earning something. And what does that look like? Diving full force into either the workforce, starting your own business, finding a new career. Because a lot of us, if we went to college or whatever we did in our 20s, may not suit us now. In fact, I just read that the average person has 12 different jobs during their lifetime. It was either like 2 to 3 careers after college or something like that. So I am on track. We're all in different situations when we find out we're going to get divorced. And what I mean by that is some of us have to go back to work and we have to take whatever job will put food on our table for ourselves and maybe our kids. That could mean for some people 2 or 3 jobs. For others, they might be in a situation where either they're older and so they're towards retirement age and they're able to collect Social Security in retirement and they don't have to go back to work, or they're just financially able to because of the situation that they're leaving, that they're financially set for the rest of their life as long as they're smart. So we're all in different situations. I'm just going to speak to my situation. Share with you, though, this podcast interview that I did with a woman named Tammy Guler-Loeb. She is a career and executive coach. She's someone who actually could talk to a variety of people given their specific situation and going back to work. So I was originally introduced to Tammy as a guest on her podcast. I believe it was for my first book, which was the 50-50 Friendship Flow, Life Lessons from and for my girlfriends. That was written when I had just turned 50. I decided to sit down with 50 women who were in my life, let them know what I learned from them. And it was things like as simple as, for instance, a woman named Tracy. She's my good friend Dana's sister. She lives in Germany. And the first time she greeted me with such warmth that changed the way I greet others. And so when I sat down and told her that changed my basis for my friendships. And I'm sure that sped up a lot of my friendships, because greeting someone with that warmth, like you're actually friends, you kind of get that same energy back. So I sat down with a lot of women like Tracy, and some were more deep conversations, especially with lifelong friends, of how they've affected me. And that became a book, and that was my first book. So I met Tammy when she interviewed me on her podcast, Work from the Inside Out, several years ago, maybe now almost 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Then when I embarked on my travels across the US to sit with women that I didn't know, or women that I had met like briefly or lost contact with years ago, or complete strangers, when I was looking for someone in Massachusetts, I remembered Tammy lived there. And Tammy joined me this past February in New York City for my book launch, Table for 51, which, by the way, is available everywhere. Links are in the show notes. But it was great to see her there, and she was able to meet so many of the other women from the project. And so I love the way Tammy keeps on showing up in my life. And that's why she was someone I thought of to contact, to put on my podcast, to talk not just about going back to work after staying at home for a long time. And actually, I have to tell you what the catalyst for me calling her is I had an experience not too long ago where there was a man that was inappropriate with his words and made me really uncomfortable, and I thought I could have responded better. So I wanted to contact her to find out what I could have done, and also to say, man, going back to work at this age, that's the one thing that I didn't think would happen, or at least it didn't cross my mind. Life experience, this is who I am today. And I had an experience where I had somebody that I had hired as my mentor. Basically, I paid, right, for this person who is more established in my industry. And he was inappropriate with the words he said and his interaction with me, which completely caught me off guard. My reaction, though, and it bothered me later, was I was polite. Like, I didn't want him to feel bad that I was rejecting his advances. So I also wanted to put out there to anybody else going back to work after staying at home for many years, so that they're not discouraged, because that really did leave me fairly discouraged for a bit, that stuff was still going on, and that I reacted kind of like I would have in my 20s, and that I made sure that other person didn't feel bad for me rejecting his advances. And I was disappointed in myself. So I wanted to bring it to light. So if anyone else is going back to work and they're thinking of everything else that you have to think of when you're going back to work for the first time in years, that could happen, and just be prepared. Just be prepared. So you have a polite but firm response. And then you won't be disappointed in yourself like I was with me. Even though we might be entering into a new profession, coming from being a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, or whatever the case is, even though we might be entering into a new profession, we're not new at this thing called life.
Right. That's right.
And when we know who we are, like you said, we can be more confident in the way we react to these things that have nothing to really do with our profession, but are part of still the dynamics that we might deal with going back into the workplace that we haven't had to deal with in years as maybe stay-at-home parents.
Right.
So my biggest takeaway from speaking with Tammy is that no matter what job you take, what career you're going into, when you're going through a life change or a career change, this is an opportunity to really understand your values.
But I also really encourage people to take a look at all they've done up till that point and think about what still is fundamentally important to you. What do you want to take with you? And I look at things like values, what really matters.
Yes.
Because, and, people say, values, it's so fluffy. And well, the thing is most people, when their values are being met, they're usually much happier at work. And even if they're not doing, let's say, a job that they absolutely love, but they feel appreciated, or they feel they have the hours they want, or they feel that the work they're doing makes a difference somewhere. There's all those kinds of things that are values based that really balance out with maybe a job that's a little more routine than you would like, or, something else along those lines.
Understand who you are. So even if you have to take that job that doesn't fit you, or you're not sure which career route to take, use it as an opportunity to see what you like, what you don't like, and I have to add network. So in another video, I'm going to talk about networking, the power of networking. I'm going to show you what I'm doing in Dallas, what's working for me, what maybe is not working for me, and what network is doing, what it's yielding for me, whether it's business connections or friendships. So finally, we've been talking about business. Here's some exciting news. I booked this beautiful venue for the very first Flip the Box Women's Retreat. It's going to be located near Dallas in Frisco, Texas. This place is gorgeous. It sleeps 40, but I'm capping it at 19. Information's on my website, and if anyone is interested, I'm requiring a Zoom call ahead of time to make sure that I go over all the details, answer any questions, and also I want to learn what your expectations are, because I think this will be magical for every woman who attends. While many of the things will be, I don't know what the right word is, scripted or on schedule, there will be things that are bespoken to this particular group, whatever that makeup turns out to be. So I'm going to get to know you before you actually arrive at the retreat. It's going to be magical. So more information will be in the notes and on my website. Okay, thank you so much for joining me this week. And please subscribe, like, follow, whatever the prompts are, comment. Give me your, best career advice. If you have any questions for Tammy, drop them in the comments below. I'll make sure those questions get to her. And I have the full podcast interview with Tammy. It's located on all the streaming platforms, podcast platforms, but also the video of it's over here on YouTube. All right, take care.